All right, everybody. Thanks so much for coming. Go ahead and take a seat. We'll get this thing started. Round two. All right. Hello and welcome to the second of two candidate forums for the Missoula City Council candidates. My name is Andy Nelson, Chair of the Missoula County Democrats. Thank you all for coming, and thank you to our candidates. This event will be videotaped by Missoula Community Access Television as part of its Media Assistance Grants program to nonprofit organizations. Can I get a big hand for MCAT? We really appreciate all the great work you do recording things in the community. This forum is sponsored by Missoula County Democrats. The County Democrats believe that an informed public is critical to the success of our democracy. And thank you all for taking the time to listen and inform yourselves tonight. If you have time, please stop at the table outside and sign up for our email lists where we were sitting earlier, and you'll receive updates from us. I would like to begin our time together by acknowledging that we are here in Missoula on Aboriginal territories of the Salish and Kalispel people. We honor the path that they have always shown us in caring for this place for generations to come. We thank the Cultural Council for the above language, and we note and acknowledge all the indigenous inhabitants in Western Montana. As part of this acknowledgement, we situate ourselves as guests actively working against colonialism and injustice. I thank the people of Turtle Island, the first people, for the privilege of learning in this space. At this point, I'd like to introduce you to our moderator, Maritza Giorgio, who is a longtime political journalist who's most widely known for her reporting on the planned removal of the USPS blue collection boxes before the 2020 election, which earned her the 2021 Walter Cronkite Award for Excellence in Television Political Journalism. She most recently hosted the primetime show America Tonight on Scripps News, where she anchored live political coverage throughout the 2024 campaign season. Now she co-hosts the Grounded podcast on Substack with former Senator Jon Tester. So here's where you can make a mental note to go subscribe. All right, and that's, I think, all I have to say, but real quick tonight, we noticed there's more candidates that were here last week also running for office. We're not going to have you up here tonight, but we'd love for you to introduce yourselves. So if you can stand up and I'll walk around and you can just say your name and what ward you are running for.
I'm David Knudsen, and I'm running in Ward 3, which is like the Slant Streets, University, Riverfront neighborhood. You might also know me as the Maple Man, so I'm here just doing my best to support my neighbors and the community. I'll just keep it short.
Thank you so much.
Hi, everyone. I'm David Quattrochi. I'm running for Ward 4 rep. Thanks.
Hi, everybody. I'm Kristen Jordan, and I am currently Ward 6 City Councilor, and I'm running for re-election. Who else is there? Oh.
Thanks, Kristen. Hi, everybody. My name is Chris Foster. I'm running for City Council in Ward 6, the 4-year seat. If you want to talk, ask questions, I'll be available afterwards.
And one more, Michelle Whitmire couldn't be here, but her husband's here with her literature. So if you'd like to learn about her campaign, he's over there with flyers. Did we get everybody? All right. Thanks, everybody. On to Maritza.
Thank you guys for being here tonight and taking time out of this beautiful Wednesday night. And we want to say good evening to all of our candidates here. So the goal of tonight's forum is similar to last week. Well, that's exactly the same as last week, actually. It's for our community to get to know these candidates up here for City Council. So there will be a primary election Tuesday, September 9th for Wards 2, 3, and 6, and then the general election Tuesday, November 4th. So candidates for Wards 1, 4, and 5 will advance directly to the general election. So a few housekeeping notes. We do have some cards for timekeeping. So for the first round of answers, we have 90 seconds, is that right, Lauren? Okay, 90 seconds for the first round, the first few questions that we're going to do. And so we're gonna have a yellow card come up. Oh, sorry. Oh, we've changed things. Okay, 20 seconds you'll see here, 10 seconds for your time cues, okay? So then she can be the bad guy and I don't have to be the bad guy, but I will step in if I need to. And so yeah, we'll just start. We'll start by just going down the list. But we should say, audience, while the candidates are speaking, you can write down questions. You have note cards out there and pens, I believe. If you don't, we have some up here, and so you can write down questions you have, and then we'll get to that part throughout, like about halfway through this panel, and we'll take some audience questions. Okay, everyone sound good? Yeah? Okay. So first we want to introduce you all to the audience. As a starting point, we want to know who you are as people, what experiences shaped your core values. So let's start with something personal. So just tell us a little bit about who you are, why you're running. We'll start here with Betsy.
Okay, I'm new to microphone use, so bear with me. My name's Betsy Krask, and I am a former teacher. I'm a community volunteer. I'm a mom of a 4-year-old, and I'm just really grateful to be here. So thank you all for hosting, and like Marisa said, just a beautiful evening. Really, I think that a lot of the reasons why I'm here and why I'm running for Ward 1 is because I love Missoula and I love this place. You look out these windows and you see the mountains and you see the trees and it's gorgeous, and it might be a little hot, but that'll ebb and flow. And so I love this place and I love this community. And my work has always, as a teacher and in other positions, has always been rooted in connection, collaboration, social justice, equity, sustainability, and community service. Those are really my values that have been shaped from a small child. My dad was a city councilor of the town that I grew up in, but I, throughout my teaching career, have really wanted to help and make a difference in our community. And so this is kind of where my path has led, and I'm really excited to work on behalf of all Missoulians, folks in Ward 1 and folks across the city, to make a difference. I'm getting timed out. I love going to meetings, so let me go to the meeting for you, and then I'll tell you what happened and communicate that.
I'm Lucas Moody, also running for Ward 1. I grew up here in Missoula, right down the Rattlesnake Creek, back when it still froze over in the winters, as opposed to now, where you can go puddle jumping in the winter. But I work here at the Missoula Public Library. Hope that gives me a bit of a home court advantage, but we'll see. And I've had a lot of work in the past with homeless populations, both abroad after high school, spent a year abroad in Ireland working with the homeless over there, have been involved with newspapers that have raised awareness about homelessness, and just my work here in Missoula with the community through both the library, where we have a lot of unhoused residents come and take use of our services, which we're able to provide a lot to help with people with their taxes. We have community days where they come in, and through volunteer work with the community, such as Missoula Food Bank, and I just see this as another way to continue giving back to the community. Thank you.
I'm going to go off of what Betsy said. I've never held a microphone in my life, so I'm really sorry. My name is Hayden Cook. I am running in Ward 2. I was born and raised here in Missoula. I am a lifelong renter. And a little bit about me. I started the first Starbucks union here in Montana. It was the Brook Street location. And then the Grant Creek location followed. I have experienced being unhoused before, so I have a unique experience living here in Missoula and going through the course of that. And currently I am volunteering at the Missoula Food Bank and really just dedicating all my time to running for council. I'm lucky to have a partner that allows me to not have to work right now, and I can fully put my time and energy into this. And I am childless, but I have 2 fur babies, and they are a lot. And that's about it.
I'm Timothy Garrison. I am currently running for Ward 2. My great-grandfather moved to Montana in 1909, and after many generations, I've been in the Kootenai River Valley, northwest Montana. Graduated Troy High School, enlisted in the Marine Corps in 1992 when I was 17 years old, served 28 years there. My son that grew up there in Troy, Montana, he moved to Missoula about 15 years ago, married a girl from Hellgate High School, and they have twin 3-year-olds. And when I retired from the Marine Corps, came back to Missoula to help take care of them. When I got here, I was the chair for the North Side, West Side Neighborhood Committee. And then in 2023, I ran for this seat for Ward 2. In 2024, I ran for House District 100 against SJ. Volunteer with the Veteran Support Network and Support Western Montana. I'm with the VFW as a veteran, and I'm the service officer for Western Montana for District 1 for the VFW. I'm also active in the American Legion, and next month I'll be traveling to Florida to represent the state of Montana down there at the national delegation for the American Legion. I volunteer with Scouts, and I'm very active in Scouts. I have units here and still up in Troy, Montana with the VFW up there, and that's Scouting America, which traditionally was the Boy Scouts, and with the Girl Scouts. I'm an active volunteer in both. And I look forward to serving this community further. Thank you.
So I'm Rebecca Dawson. I'm running for Ward 2. I've done this a couple of times, so some of you might recognize the name. I grew up in Montana. I grew up down the Bitterroot, so not quite Missoula. Missoula was town, and it was really exciting to come up here when I was a kid. I left right after high school. I came back about 10 years ago and decided to finish raising my family here. So I have 3 girls, 2 adults, and 1 getting ready to launch. She will be graduating in 2026 from Big Sky. And I am running for council for the same reason I always run for council, is I think we need to have different opinions and different voices being heard on council to represent the entire community. I think we have a lot of great ideas that come out of council, but I think we have the opportunity to have more diversity in the ideas that are presented and in the way our city is run. I'm also running because I'm not happy that my mortgage payment has gone up several $100s in the last 10 years due to property taxes. So I would like to be a voice for all of Missoula to stop spending so much money. So again, thank you all for being here, and thank you for giving me the chance to come and talk to you.
Yeah, hello all. Thanks for being here. My name is Justin Ponton, and I'm also running for Ward 2. I grew up in Missoula, lived here for about 30 years in total. I went to Hellgate Elementary, Big Sky High School, and went to UM as well. After that, I took a little reprieve and moved to New York City to kind of chase some career opportunities and be there with my wife. But we've lived back in Missoula for about 4 years now. So happily, locals, and we live here with our pup, Penny. So very excited to be back. For the last decade or so, I have been working in the housing industry, and I've managed large teams, small teams, and pretty consistently throughout that 10-year stretch, I've managed very large budgets as well. So, one of the things that prompted me to run was just the impact stories around the community have had on me, including both friends and family who have had to move out of Missoula or even out of Montana in general because the costs are too expensive. So my goal is to kind of lean into the things that I know best, because I think those, housing and fiscal responsibility are 2 of the things that are super critical to Missoula right now. So I hope to lean into those things, affect some positive change on the city, and also give back to my community while doing that. So thank you.
Hey, I'm Daniel Carlino. I'm one of the current city council representatives for Ward 3. A little bit about me is along with being on city council, I work as an aide for people with developmental disabilities and go throughout their days with them. And then I also work occasionally on different progressive campaigns and trying to, get good people elected into office. And, in my free time, I like to enjoy biking, hiking, playing in the river. I'm, a really good chess player. You can ask Greg the Octopus here in town. I've got my baby cat Toulouse, and we've got chickens, Reddy, Betty, Freddy, Terry, Jerry, and Chef Piccolo. So I enjoy playing with all my animals. And why I got into politics is because I'm hungry for change. Frankly, our political system and politicians are failing us. We live in the most wealthy country in the world, yet we don't have health care for everybody. Yet we've got so many people homeless. We've got more people incarcerated in our country per capita than anywhere in the world. That's not the land of the free. I think, my politics is that I believe everybody should have housing is a human right, health care is a human right, clean water and food, childcare, and that's what I've been fighting for on City Council. I'm relentlessly have introduced far more policies than any other council member, and I'm really proud of the ones that I've been able to get passed to help make our community a better place. So I hope to have another 4 years for you all, and you can count on me to do everything I can to stand up for human rights in our environment.
Well, now I have both of the microphones. I'm just kidding. I'm going to put one of them back here. Hello, everybody. My name is Nathan Daniel Coyen. I'm running for Ward 3, Daniel's ward. And I have lived in Missoula since I was 8 years old. I moved here. So that's 41 years now I've lived in Missoula. There was a period of time when I moved back to my hometown to go to high school in Glendive, Montana, which was actually a very formative experience for me because I had the opportunity to work on the Pat Williams campaign back in 1992. And sorry, it was a little emotional with the events that have happened recently in Pat's passing. I'm still good friends with his campaign manager, and honestly, I should probably take some of his advice, but I don't. I'm running this whole campaign by myself, and it's just me, and I'm also probably one of the few renters running in the race and looking at the housing market right now. Some of the most pressing issues facing our community, I feel, are housing. I will say that my experience in the past with, I have 2 adult children, their mother had severe mental illness. Mental illness is something that's kind of fallen by the wayside across the whole state. It's an important thing, and it also ties into housing and houselessness and the ability of for people to secure and maintain a place to live. I'm really excited about living in Missoula. The opportunities that we have here are, my time is up, but I will tell you that I thank you all for coming, and it's nice to meet you all.
Okay, thank you all. I know if I need help naming any pets in the future, I'm going to call Daniel Carlino. Hilarious. Okay, so some of you touched on this a little bit, but this is your chance to have 90 seconds to expand on it. What do you consider to be the most important challenges facing Missoula municipal government during the next 2 years? And let's just go all the way back down, and we'll come back this way this time.
Oh, geez. I get to start talking again. Okay. Well,
you have 2 microphones, I heard.
I have 2 microphones. I don't mean to hog all of the air in the room, though, with both of them. Yeah, I mean, clearly, to continue where I was heading on my last moment here, housing is very crunched. The short-term rental industry is making it very hard for people to afford to live here. 20% of the properties on my block alone are occupied by short-term vacation rentals, which makes it hard for people who want to live in this community and be part of the community to actually stay and remain here. I'm currently in the market for a house, but as I look at the prices, I don't know that I truly am because I can't see a way to afford it right now. Granted, I'm a single person on one person's income, but I do work full-time, and I've been doing the same job now for 10 years, something I'm very passionate about, running the elections office, which is something that is very, very meaningful to me, community engagement. But I would love to be able to make myself, yeah, I've been here for 40 years. I'm a permanent part of the community, but I would really like to establish myself permanently with a house here and to be able to give myself the kind of roots that affords. And I think that I would like that for a lot of other people as well.
Yeah, top two issues facing Missoula, I think, is the need for affordable housing for everyone in town, and then frankly the climate crisis, I think, is still the issue of our era, people that are alive today. So I'm proud to do everything I can to put people in our environment over the pursuit of profits when it comes to these issues. On City Council, I've been able to help get amendments passed to make it easier to build ADUs or those tiny homes in people's backyards. I've tried to classify short-term rentals or Airbnbs as businesses. I've pushed for changes in the zoning to allow for more housing to be built, and also have pushed many different amendments and proposals to pump a lot more money towards our Affordable Housing Trust Fund to where we can get truly below market rate affordable housing. And I'm also proud of a lot of the work that Missoula has been doing around this issue. And with climate, we are frankly running out of time before, we're gonna, right now we're in the fifth, or right now we're going into the sixth mass extinction where, we're on track to have the vast majority of species on this planet go extinct if we don't change the way that we're doing things. We need to get off of fossil fuels, and, I've pushed for budget amendments to help with this by putting towards our affordable housing and climate incentives program. I got a budget amendment passed to help get pesticides out of McCormick Park, and right now we're working on getting pesticides out of all city parks. But frankly, we just need to do everything that we can to stop the climate crisis and ensure that everybody's got access to affordable housing.
Yeah, the first issue I want to highlight is also housing, but within that, there's it's kind of an umbrella term for a number of different things. So in the last 5 years, the median home price in the city of Missoula is up 59%. It's a lot. And we're anywhere between 1,000 and 2,000 housing units short of having what most, economists and industry experts would consider to be kind of like a normal amount of housing supply. So that has just continued to put an immense amount of pressure on pricing, which, impacts folks who want to buy their first home, impacts folks who want to upgrade out of that first home into another home, which is a domino effect because it frees up the first place for another first-time buyer. So there's that aspect, but also, the cost of building has also made it so affordable housing is much more expensive to build. So there's all these factors. Property tax is also in that mix, of course, as well. And since, the city funds most of its budget through property taxes, that's something we need to focus on as well. Part two is, I think, infrastructure. As we're developing more housing, which, as I outlined, we most desperately need, we need to do that responsibly. I think if you look at places like Reserve Street, Mullen Road where I live, there's an incredible amount of development, which, again, great for housing, but we need to make sure we're doing that responsibly. I think there's a lot of opportunities in the infrastructure side of things, and I'm watching the Reserve Street safety action plan pretty closely, and once the kind of fact-finding aspect of that is done, I think we need to be looking to make some changes to make these roadways a bit safer.
So he took my answer. Housing is definitely the top priority here in Missoula. We don't have enough, and what we do have is very, very expensive. There are a few ways to address that. One is through looking at our property taxes. Why do they keep going up? Where is that money being spent, and is it being spent wisely? Is everything we're spending money on absolutely necessary and absolutely in need of the city, or is it something that's just frilly and fun and we just want to feel good about it? We need to balance the wants versus needs in our city budget so that we're not taxing people out of their homes and out of our community. In my family, my grandmother could no longer afford to live in her home. She had to sell her home because her retirement Social Security did not cover her property taxes and utilities and all of her living expenses. So that's something that's very real, and it's facing just about every person in our community in one way or another. I think that when we look at what we're doing fiscally, that will trickle into more sustainability, more availability of housing. I think if we look at our overregulation in some of the building sectors, that we can make it a little easier for developers. And definitely our roadways need to be addressed, and our traffic patterns and what we need to do, what's best for us to get people safely through town needs to be a priority.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Affordable housing is a shortage here, and we've done a lot of things to work towards fixing that. We have a long way to go there. As far as things like applying TIF towards demolition and acquisition of lands within the community for infill. We did some community surveys in the neighborhoods, and some of that came back pretty much as you expect. The majority says, yes, we need to do infill. Where? Everywhere except for my neighborhood. So it's a little bit of taking ownership at the neighborhood level too and saying some of this is going to happen next door to your house. And as far as TIF funding goes, Montana also allows us to apply TIF funding to developing infrastructure in some greenfields. And some of that, as the city grows, is going to be urban sprawl. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's a balance. We can't just like keep pushing out and abandon what's already here. But as we use those TIF funds to revitalize those areas within the city, we also have to make sure that we're not drawing from other areas of the city and putting incentives in there for people to move their businesses and move those things that are important to wherever they're currently located at. And then the other thing beyond affordable housing is available housing. And there are a lot of businesses in the area that are lacking in skilled labor, and they can't get those skilled employees to move to the area because there's no housing available for them either. So it's not just what's affordable for the individuals that are here, but even in the upper levels, get more housing availability for the skilled labor that we need in the area to continue to grow as a city.
This question, I have a hard time giving just two things. So the way I'll umbrella term this is equitable growth, just straight up equitable growth all across Missoula in all different industries, all different sectors. So housing, of course, as everyone's already said, I know we're repeating each other now, but housing absolutely needs to be equitable. Infrastructure, especially in the way that we do public transit here in town, needs to be equitable across all corners of Missoula. The way that we do handle climate, just kind of like what Daniel said, we are running out of time, absolutely. And we are heading towards a really dark place. And like I said, I've lived here all my life, and I don't want to see Missoula not as green, and sometimes maybe not as hot, but you know, we need to take care of the place that we love. And around houselessness as well, we need to treat every individual, every human being equitably, and remember that we are not here to otherize them. We are here to support them, and they are still people. We don't know their individual circumstances, how they got there. We don't know how they'll get out of there, but we need to just generally spread equity for everyone here in Missoula. And sorry, it wasn't two things, but a few things.
I'm going to cheat a bit. I'm going to wrap housing affordability and homelessness into one, since these two issues are very interconnected. And they tend to feed off each other. It's like the more housing inaffordability we have, the more people will end up homeless. Because it doesn't take much, like with rents going up due to the lack of affordable housing in general. This causes a chain effect where you have like people just can't afford their rents anymore, end up on the street, and or you have people that like we have a bunch of foster kids aging out of the program, and they don't have affordable housing to move into, and they don't have the support structures. I'm in a fortunate position. I didn't know there's a lot of renters on the panel here today, but I live with my folks, and I'm very blessed to be in that position that I'm able to help around the house. But without that, I probably wouldn't be able to live in Missoula, and it keeps drawing me back. And like, despite having like glacial water in my veins, like I just to build off of what Daniel said, I'm concerned about like the glaciers disappearing, and with the climate catastrophe that's looming ahead of us. And I think that we need to do all we can to address that as well.
I will echo what everybody else said, that housing is, I think, one of the biggest issues facing Missoula in the next couple of years. And not just in the next couple of years, but Missoula is slated to grow in population overwhelmingly over the next 20 years. And that's a lot of people moving here and a lot of people needing housing. And I think a lot of us agree that we love the character of Missoula and the vitality of Missoula, and we want people who are here to be able to live here. And our character is made up of the people who live here. And so I think housing, you know, looking at housing from various angles like others have mentioned, but also I think working towards those issues in a collaborative way with other organizations that are doing great housing work in Missoula, with other entities, and and being able to lean on the expertise of others in our community to help look at this issue of housing affecting all of these other parts. And I think with that, housing growth and development also brings the opportunity to wrap in climate issues and develop in a way that our climate, we can use code and zoning to look at climate-focused development in ways that we build things, in ways that we model our city to help achieve climate goals that either our city has put forward or that we develop.
Okay, I think Justin used the term umbrella, and certainly a lot under this umbrella that's all interconnected, like you guys said. Listen, I've been part of this community for 22 years, and I've been covering local news here for a big chunk of that time. A lot of these themes have been an issue since I started working at the local TV station in 2006. Housing costs, homelessness, taxes, NIMBYism, not in my backyard, traffic, I'll add a new one, Yellowstone. So how do we, what is an idea that you have to tackle that umbrella that hasn't been done, that hasn't been tried in that time period? We'll start with Daniel this time. Oh, sorry. Ooh, we got the microphone all the way down. Okay, there, they got one. Okay.
You know, when it comes to housing, affordable housing in Missoula, you know, right now we're at a really big turning point with our code reform that we're finishing up, you know, this year, where, you know, the majority of residential land in Missoula, you could only build a single family home for decades. You couldn't build a duplex or a threeplex, townhomes. Not till recently could you build like a tiny home in the backyard. And then also we've changed it. Also the zoning separates people from where they live to places that they like to go. So I think, you know, this is a huge opportunity for Missoula where we can make it to where people can walk to places they like to go in their neighborhoods, have cafes, coffee shops, daycares, gyms, et cetera, built within your neighborhood. And then we can also have an abundance of housing in Missoula by changing our zoning codes and building codes to allow for that to happen, to allow people to have apartments close to single family homes, and then also duplexes, threeplexes, fourplexes, everything in between. So this is really a huge opportunity for Missoula. And, you know, when we first you know, started working on this, I brought forward the most amendments to try and, you know, allow for this type of thing where you can have mixed use neighborhoods and have an abundance of housing. And now as we get into the more nitty gritty codes, you can count on me to bring a bunch of changes as well to ensure that we have an abundance of housing in Missoula and, you know, can live close to the places that we like to go. So I think, you know, this is something that problem we've been dealing with for decades, so now's our time to fix it.
Yeah, I think to Missoula's credit, you know, we have over the years employed a number of different strategies. You know, some have proven to be more effective than others, but, you know, I think the economics of it are relatively simple, right? You know, in order to, you know, release some of the pressure on demand, we simply need more supply. So I think we need to continue to engage in projects, developments, and public-private partnerships that allow for more housing to be built. And I think the code and zoning reform needs to, you know, allow for that and line up with, you know, one of the priorities of the land use plan, which is exactly that, what I just outlined. I'm all for other creative solutions. I think, like Daniel mentioned, ADUs are a very good option and have proven to be, you know, a successful option if you allow residents to build those. And I think it's a good, you know, a good thing to allow folks to do. Just increases, you know, the amount of available housing. And, you know, I think it's that property owner's right to construct that type of, you know, that type of structure in their property if they think that that's the best fit.
So, yeah, I agree. The zoning reforms and requirements, that definitely is a step in the right direction to help with what we're dealing with the shortage of supply. I'm going to go back to budgetary issues. We need to really take a hard look at how Missoula spends their money, because if we can lower property taxes, then more people can afford these properties as far as working toward home ownership. I also think Missoula has a beautiful giving heart and spirit, but we've hurt ourselves with that in some areas, and we need to set clear expectations within our community that all of our community members will contribute and will abide by the standards that have been set, and we are not going to enable and promote bad behavior and destruction within our community from those certain members.
Yeah, I mean, personally, as far as zoning goes, I live in a house where the garage was built in the alley in 1955. And to replace that garage and try to put it on the front of the house, I cannot do that because I have alley parking on that block, on that side of the block, where the zoning is so specific that I can't put a garage in my front yard, but the neighbor on the other side of the street can. So some of the zoning, as the community has grown, has been very specific to individuals. I've heard of other stories of individuals not being able, or had parking in their front, but not like a paved parking lot. And so the city built a curb there and built a sidewalk there and blocked them and made that into public parking. Some of the other coding that I've seen is that when you build an apartment building, you have to have islands of grass in the middle for beautification, and you have to have a row of grass around it. And that's great, but you can never see the grass because all the cars are now forced to park on the street again. So some of these things, as far as coding goes for beautification and all that, it's really important to some of the areas, but when it starts taking away from the opportunity to expand and to actually provide parking for the apartments, and the apartments can't be built because they can't guarantee 1.5 parking spaces through per tenant, some of the coding is just, it doesn't drive towards helping the city. And so that's just my thoughts.
Can I ask for the question one more time? Are we talking about zoning and housing, or is it just the umbrella of everything we talked about?
I think just my question was just kind of balancing that umbrella, dealing with all of these issues that I've certainly reported on in my whole time here. Taxes, homelessness, housing prices, all of that, people coming in, growth. How do you balance that and deal with that whole umbrella?
That's a big question. Okay. Yeah, I don't know how to really fully address all of those issues in 90 seconds, but that's okay. I mean, I can bounce back to what I said earlier about equity, and I think that can come not only from the city and us being equitable in our budgeting, kind of like we talked about, and being smart about where our money is spent, what departments we're funding, how much funding they're getting, employees of the city, all those things that our taxes go towards. If we're able to free up any of those tax dollars for things like the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, then we are able to assist the folks that need it the most. And for the other umbrella things that we covered, I think we need to engage the youth more. As a young person, and probably the youngest person up here, I think we need to engage students, not just college students, but 14 to 19 in the high schools. I think we need to be engaging them in what politics is, what it means to be a part of politics, what government does for them, because a lot of them are entering the world and they're not entirely sure what they're doing. I mean, when I was in high school, I was driving, I had an apartment, I had bills to pay, I had taxes to pay, and none of that was taught to me. None of that was instruction. All of that was just figuring it out and making mistakes and having to go back and forth with different resources. So I think to address a lot of those big issues, we have to start at the root cause and where people are. We need to start where they're young and help guide them to make the best decisions for everybody and themselves.
I think one of the things we need to acknowledge is that there are inherent conflicts of interest between when it comes to, especially to housing. It's like with housing being commodified, there's a lot of speculative investment in real estate, and these forces basically want the price of housing to go up. And it's like if you're out-of-state renters, you don't care about the community, and you have no investment aside from that prevents you from just jacking up the rent every year. And as long as this is like a situation that's not addressed, we are going to be continuing to face an issue with housing affordability. Because ultimately, it's basically a matter of supply and demand. As long as the supply is low and the demand is high, that's going to cause housing prices to go up. And the people that are engaging in the speculative housing don't have an incentive to lower these. So I'd love to see things like an expansion of like front steps, land trust program, more community owned land, like the trailer park that was that the city helped finance and allowed the community to buy so that they can actually own their own property.
So under this umbrella, there's so many different aspects and it's multifaceted. And like Hayden mentioned, there's no way to hit that in 90 seconds. But I think something really important and innovative that Missoula's doing and that I think is important is partnering with organizations who are doing the really good work in our town. Like Lucas said, Front Step in their community land trust model is really inspiring to me in the work that they're doing to help people access housing, even not just low income residents, but also people who are at median income or who still struggle to find housing in our town. And so that's one example of housing, but there's many other facets where we can have discussion and we can learn from one another and we can brainstorm and have these conversations about what we can do that are ideas that we don't even know yet. So part of your question is like, what creative things can we do and what's something that we haven't done yet? And I think that's what's really exciting is that maybe we don't know, and maybe through working together and having these conversations and leaning on each other's expertise as a community, maybe that gives us the opportunity to come up with new and innovative ways to help our city move forward and to be a place where we can all thrive.
I think Lucas and Betsy both hit on some interesting ways that I've been looking at this situation with affordable housing. Clearly, the availability of affordable housing is an important issue to all of us. Clearly, there is a need for a greater amount of supply on the market. Lucas hit out something that the detachment of remote speculative investment in real estate brings to communities can be devastating. And also, Betsy said my favorite word, which is creativity, like all of the solutions that none of us have ever even considered are something that I may not have a lot of experience working on the city council. In fact, I have no experience working on the city council, but that's why I'm here, right? I think that's why a lot of us are here. Because even though I don't know that I have all of the answers, I know that once I'm able to fully engage in these conversations, that we will come up with some creative solutions. I like to think of myself as a problem solver, and I've had a lot of opportunity to sit and listen to people who have varying opinions on many, many different topics, and the ability to sit and engage with people who have different viewpoints is probably the most important skill that you can have in any of these conversations.
Okay, thank you guys. We will shift gears. We'll take some questions now from the audience. I have a whole bunch. So on these, they will be 60 seconds for the answer. Same time cues here. And we will start. We're just going to continue down this path of housing because it's what a lot of people want to know about. So this first question, if the private market can't or won't build affordable housing, and we know affordable is a relative term, because it isn't profitable, what should the city do? How would the city help pay for it? So we'll start with Justin.
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, the city alone is not a land developer, so we're reliant on these type of public-private partnerships. So I think there's got to be some kind of engagement and some sort of middle ground we can find to get these types of things constructed. I think the deployment of tax increment financing is obviously a very good, and it can be a very effective weapon. So I'd say we need to lean into that and just continue to build upon whatever relationships we have with private developers to try to get some of these things off the ground and started.
So I don't think it's the city's job to make that happen. I think it's the city's job to help figure out why the developers can't or won't build. So what is the root cause of that? If they say it's not profitable, why is it not profitable? Is it the cost of materials? Is it the cost of all of the permitting? Is it the cost, what is at the root cause of it being not profitable? And that was really fast. So I think the city is more in a position of helping to get to the root cause and resolve the issue that way rather than financing the building in any way.
When I was still in the Marine Corps, when I was down in 29 Palms, California, we worked with the city planners and we got the infrastructure grants from the federal government, and we did acquisition of city property. And then we developed that and we managed it as a city, and we provided affordable housing. And by doing that, you can get away from a lot of the red tape and the permitting that stands in place and the funding up front by the contractors and the bidding wars and all that stuff by managing your own property and keeping it as affordable housing. It's not something that you're going to get rich off of as a city. It's not something you're going to lose money in either, though. But you're going to manage it as a city, and you're going to provide that infrastructure and affordable housing to your community.
If I understand correctly, the question is kind of hypothetical. If private developers choose not to build affordable housing, how will the city respond to that? I think in two different ways. One, we could do more with our TIF funds and our MRA funds. I think we, in that scenario, would need to redirect them much more heavily towards affordable housing. In similar respects to Lake Villaggio, that development, things of that nature. The Scott Street development that's coming up here soon, I think that's another good example of where we're putting our money. And then otherwise, I do think that we need to reevaluate our zoning, our code, our permits, the way that we allow developers to develop on our land. We need to modernize it. I will be very transparent. I don't know everything about it, and I haven't read all of it. But I do think that if we modernize it, if we fast track it without compromising our values as Missoula, we can help build those partnerships with developers and maybe not have this scenario occur.
I apologize for earlier. Sometimes the TISM catches up with me. When dealing with, this is like definitely an issue where the free market is not going to solve this. The city's own study where they found that they came up with temporary safe outdoor shelters, which have been a very successful program, found that the free market is not going to correct this imbalance when it comes to housing affordability. And as mentioned earlier, this is a matter of supply and demand. If you have the whole high demand and low supply, that's basically a realtor's dream. It's like that, you can really afford achieve a lot of profits in that instance. And so really working with the community to invest in community-owned property and in trusts, I think is the best way forward.
I'll echo some of what folks have said and probably sound like a broken record when I say that leaning on partnerships for these opportunities for development, hypothetical, yes, but with the Rivara project that's going in on the north side, there's the ability to work with developers to develop in a way that includes affordable housing and includes the possibility that people who might not be able to be homeowners can live there, rent there. And I think that to what Daniel spoke about earlier is including the amenities and the ability for these affordable developments or parts of them that are affordable is an awesome opportunity to bring in amenities that people need and that people, don't worry, amenities that people need and that help create a livable neighborhood that doesn't involve driving your car across town. And so I think that, again, leaning on these partnerships and working with developers to do that.
So back again to the housing supply. obviously the answer is more supply. And Daniel hit on some great ideas talking about looking at the zoning, making it possible to do a little bit more development and infill where we're already at rather than sprawling continuously outward. The solution is never going to be solely private market. It's never going to be solely the public sector. The government alone cannot solve all of these problems, nor can the marketplace. But we are both part of the same community, and we both can find a way to thrive in what we're doing here. I've seen some really interesting developments on the PBS NewsHour had a really interesting centerpiece on this housing development. I believe it was in Nevada. It may have been New Mexico. I'm sorry, don't quote me on any of that, obviously. But it was a very interesting little sustainable village where the people who lived in this community, none of them had any cars, and they all were able to use these electric vehicles, and I'm out of time, so. It was a wonderful dream world.
Totally agree. I think, whenever, something that we all need is based on a for-profit system, there'll always be haves and have-nots. So for something like housing, I think it's important that the government does everything we can to ensure that we've got affordable housing. When it comes to market rate housing developments, we need to change our building codes and zoning, which we're in the process of, and make it easier to build. And then when it comes to affordable, like below market rate, truly affordable housing developments, the city, has some good examples, like with our Blue Heron project, and then the new one with the Rivera project. But we need to put more money towards the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, do more things like community land trusts where people can build affordable housing but use government land, and increase add on to our affordable housing incentive program where when we work with developers, we require them to have a portion of affordable housing. I don't agree with tax money going towards market rate developments like they do currently with the TIF. I think every time that we're going to use tax money towards housing developments, there needs to be a portion that is deed restricted affordable. So I'm pushing for that now.
Okay, this will be really quick, 30 seconds each, but I think it'll be less than that. If elected, will you disclose your property holdings, including short and long-term rentals? We'll start with you, Rebecca.
Yeah, I'll do it now. I have one house.
She stole my line. Same.
Lifelong renter, never owned a house.
I also own no property.
I currently own 2 properties. One is for sale.
I've been a renter in Missoula my entire life. Like I mentioned earlier, I would love to own a house here, and I've been looking at some houses, and man, there's some beauties.
Yeah, renter, don't own anything of significant value. So, yeah.
Yeah, no secrets here. Longtime renter, both in Missoula, rented for 7 long years in New York City. Happily, though, my wife and I were able to purchase our first home in 2021 here in town.
Okay, so that was kind of an easy one. So I'm going to start with you again, Rebecca, because that was an easy one. Your job will be to write and pass policy. So given that you'll need to collaborate to get things done, what is the policy or ordinance you would most like to propose in your first 6 months on council?
No, you had to go way easy to way hard.
Sorry.
I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank. As far as setting policy in Missoula, I think that we need to really look and talk to our community as far as what is the appetite, what are we looking to find, what does our community feel need to be changed, and then work to write policies that will reflect the desires of the majority in Missoula that will help us move forward as a community. Sorry, that's kind of a non-answer, but I hope you get what I'm trying to get to.
I think one of the first policies I would think is necessary now is just the continuous process improvement of the way in which we get the building of the the housing started. It takes too long. It takes too long for developers to get through the tape, to get through the process of getting things approved, and getting that out of the way and fast forwarding the ability for that paperwork to move through and get through the process so they can start building before cost goes up. It's hard to make a cost estimate on a building that might not start for 6 months to 3 years.
I've actually thought about this a little bit, and the one ordinance that I would like to get hashed out with all the council members and make sure is completely capable of city council, not a state thing, would be a tenants' rights package. And I'm pretty sure that any publicly funded housing, we would be able to enforce some type of tenants' rights. And to kind of bounce off that ordinance, I would like to work with state legislatures to improve tenants' rights. And I mean, of course, property taxes, if we could maybe shift that burden back on to people that can afford it, that would be good too.
I'd just like to echo Hayden's, specifically tenants' right to counsel. It's like most like 95% of landlords have access to lawyers. Only like 5% of tenants have similar access, and like ensuring that will help ensure that tenants can't just be evicted without due process.
This is a great question, and I think my background is in science and science education, and I'm really excited to talk with people on council and to work with people on what we can do in the realm of climate and what we can do in the realm of just our local environment and how we can work. I don't have a specific piece that I would like to put forward, but that's certainly something that I'm really passionate about and interested in. I think that tenants' rights are really important. I think mostly I'm just super excited to work with people and to work with people on council to help move things forward in a productive way.
So I would agree with the tenants' rights is an important issue. I think that the recycling and a glass recycling industry here would be something that I would like to see what could be done to either attract that kind of industry here and see what kind of potential that offers. I think some kind of a little bit more of a look at a cap on the number of short-term rentals. It would be something beneficial for the housing market. And I think largely, I kind of wanted to say really what I wanted to say is what Rebecca said, and that I want to listen to the community and hear from people and hear what people feel is going right. I know everyone feels like they have an opinion about what's going wrong, but I also want to hear about what's going right in the community and ways that we can help support the things that we're already doing that we're enjoying success with and say, let's build on that.
Yeah, I think healthcare should be a human right in our country, and how this relates to a local issue is whenever somebody's get injured and needs a ride to the hospital, that ambulance ride costs thousands of dollars. People are refusing a ride to the hospital, and frankly, the fire department gets there first before the ambulances quite a bit of time, and they cannot drive you to the hospital because of the contract with a for-profit ambulance company. So I think if I could get one thing passed in city council, I would like to have a publicly owned ambulance service. And in fact, I did get a study, worked with the fire department to get a study for that put into the city budget a few years ago. So we have the plan in place, and it just needs funding and follow through once our contract ends with MESI, the current ambulance service. But everybody should be able to get the help that they need when they're in an emergency and not be worrying about bills or having to wait longer to get a ride to save their lives.
I mentioned this earlier, but I'm following the Reserve Street Safety Action Plan pretty closely, and they're still in like the fact-finding phase and garnering public feedback. So if elected, that wouldn't happen until next year. So honestly, the timing might align quite nicely. But one of the things I'd like to work on is implementing whatever that comes out of that. It's going to need to be data-driven, and we need to see what all is going to be in that study. But living out on Mullen Road, I'm reliant on the Mullen corridor and the Reserve corridor every single day. And for better or worse, I'm a very observant and law-abiding driver, and I see a lot of stuff every day that just kind of makes me shake my head. So I think there's going to need to be quite a few different things that we take out of that, and I think we need to be prepared to do that as a community. I think there's roundabouts on Mullen that need to be reworked. There's too many uncontrolled intersections on Reserve Street. There's been roundabouts out in my neighborhood that don't make a ton of sense, so I think we need to be prepared to take some action after that's done.
Okay, so we'll start with Timothy this time. In order to trim the city's budget, what would you reduce or cut?
I think one of the major concerns I have with the city council currently, no offense to anybody on the city council, is that sometimes we do knee-jerk reactions to projects that are coming up that we have time to wait. We have time to include those. We have general elections pretty much every November, whether it's going to be city or whether it's going to be state. We have the opportunity to include a popular vote in there at the general election from the general population. And so one of the biggest hits on the budget every year is those big projects. They take large amounts of money, whether it be redoing the corridor through Higgins Street or redoing the pedestrian bridge on Reserve or redoing, I don't know what to call it, the bicycle bridge over North Side neighborhood. Things that affect a very small population, but we are all going to pay into. Having more of a say in that as a general population. So those big chunks come out of the budget, leaving very little budget left to make everything else work. Thank you.
I'm not currently in a place to commit what or where I would cut money from. I think what we really need to do is audit everything that we are spending money on. As someone who's worked for a billion-dollar company like Starbucks and having to spend money on their behalf, I've had to balance budgets. I've had to manage labor budgets as well. And it makes no sense that we would pass through budgets and not tear it apart every single time. I mean, a good example of where money being spent and money being earned changed a lot is during the pandemic. Just suddenly, all of our costs changed. Everything that we need to spend money on changed. So we need to be very meticulous about how we're spending taxpayer dollars every single time we have a budget.
I think one of the areas that we could focus on are the TIFs themselves. While there are a lot of very solid TIF programs like the pedestrian bridge over Reserve Street, there are some that you're putting an unneeded tax burden by diverting funds to things like Stockman Bank, where it's like, do we really need to be diverting the taxpayer money to a private entity like that instead of public infrastructure? And so,
gosh, the city budget is such a big and complex situation. I think that it's really important to recognize that our city budget goes towards services like fire and police and public safety, and know that large parts of our city budgets is essential for operation and for safety and for our city to run effectively. That being said, I think that there's always, in budgeting, there's always the opportunity to look at a budget and to propose amendments or to look at it carefully and say, where is this money going to? I had a great conversation earlier today about looking at the different pools the different services that are being provided and looking at them as one pool instead of various different pools. And that's a very quick description of our discussion, but looking at where the budget overlaps and where there's room and what those services are going towards.
Yeah, I would say that off the top of my head, what is the very first thing that needs to be cut? I don't know. I would have to sit and pour through the budget and come to a better understanding and have these conversations. I know obviously the taxation system we have to operate under is very antiquated. Property taxes for everything in every budget, the county's budget, the city's budget. The state is the only one who can really do anything about that, though, and that's the legislature, not the city council. So unfortunately, I don't know what the solution to that would be, but I do know that I agree with what largely everyone else said. We do have the time to sit and analyze the pieces of the budget and to determine where we may or may not be able to make those cuts while prioritizing the key components of any municipal government's budget, public safety, fire, police, et cetera, and making sure that our communities are a safe place to live and that our roads are safe to drive on and that we have parks to enjoy recreation opportunities.
You know, in in Montana, we had protections for people that are experiencing homelessness under Martin v. Boise and Johnson's versus Grants Pass, where they could not receive criminal charges if there's not enough shelter beds in a community. And then after Donald Trump's Supreme Court overturned that, now it's up to local governments to decide if they want to give people criminal charges or fine them, even whether or not there's enough shelter beds in a community if people are living unhoused. And since then, the city council has passed misdemeanor criminal charges for people that are, camping, whether or not there's anywhere for them to go, or living in their vehicles and having their vehicles towed. And it's been quite punitive, ever since Donald Trump's Supreme Court's been able to overturn that. And not only is it punitive, this is costing the city millions of dollars in all sorts of different things. In so many different departments and aspects to just make the most vulnerable people in our communities' lives harder. So I would change that and cut quite a bit of the things that are going towards implementing stuff like that.
Yeah, it's a good question. It's also really, really difficult. I mean, you probably heard if you've kind of plugged into anything budget related or watched this session last week. I mean, the city's budget operates on razor thin margins, and a vast majority of that money goes to cover very essential services. So, to be honest, I think it's only fair to say that each iteration of a budget cut needs some dedicated focus and review as a group, including the mayor's office and other folks on city council. So, all that to say, I think, we just need to really be focused on, fiscal and budget responsibility and, review each one of these things case by case. I don't think it's fair to just pick things ad nauseum for me to do that here.
So not to sound like a broken record, but yes, I do think we need to go through the budget line by line. I think I talk a lot about wants versus needs, and that's how I do my own personal budget. So going in and making sure that our needs are covered, and then you have your list of wants left over, I think it would be really important for us to be responsible to our taxpayers to look at those wants and see who is benefiting from those. Is it new bike lanes? Well, maybe we need to have people who ride bicycles everywhere license their bicycle to pay for the maintenance and the creation of their bike lanes. I think we need to look at creative revenue sources in addition to our property taxes, but also I love the idea of if it is a large project, if it's going to cost our taxpayers quite a bit of money, I think it should be on the ballot. I think our neighbors, our community should have a very loud voice in whether or not those projects are taken up.
Oh, that's me. Okay. Okay. This question is, how will you support your LGBTQ plus constituents? I'll start with you.
This feels like a directed question. And a loaded question, geez.
I'm just reading the audience questions.
Yeah, I guess so.
Sorry.
That's, okay. In all fairness, that's a very difficult question. I think that representation matters for those folks. I guess I can say growing up as a gay kid here in Montana, it's kind of tough. I mean, we're pretty lucky to be in Missoula, of all places. But I think representation matters, and I kind of want to call out the fact that the city implemented the pride flag as a official city flag, I believe is what they called it. And I think that having that physical symbol and that representation in businesses or in government buildings or in people's yards even, it just lets people know that, okay, I'm safe here. At the very least, I won't be accosted, I won't be judged, my life's not in danger. It's just a symbol of safety and being welcome. And I think that's a very simple thing that we can do. It wouldn't be costly, it wouldn't take tax dollars, but it would help a lot of people.
Added benefit of that is that recognizing it as the city flag of Missoula does mean it can be flown in the rest of the state as well. One of the things is that folks of marginalized communities are often affected in multiple ways. And so members of the LGBT community often can find themselves estranged from their families. They lack the necessary support networks, and so they often can end up in the situation of housing insecurity as well. And so it's really like being able to reach out to those the people in those situations and address their housing needs as well, since they're in a much more vulnerable situation.
I am a huge supporter of the LGBTQ community, and I think broadening it to marginalized communities is a really good thing to recognize. And I think it's always important to not only the pride flag was a great. I was really in support of the city adopting it as an official flag, and that's a great example. And I think that it's really important to also ask the questions of who's not in the room or who's not represented in this conversation, or what are we missing? What are who are the communities that this might have the greatest effect on, or who is this having, what are the effects that will be in play for various marginalized communities? And I think it's really important to recognize that and to work towards inclusivity for all people. And we're a city of great neighbors, and we support each other as such.
Well, okay, so it's potentially a very loaded question. And I mean, to me, I think what you said, Missoula, you're lucky to live in Missoula. Missoula is a very welcoming community. That's one of the greatest things that I enjoy about living in this community. I want everyone to feel like they're welcome here, their voices are heard, that Missoula is open and equitable, and that everybody's welcome here. I don't want anyone to feel like they have to be afraid of who they are, or hide that, or be threatened or intimidated because of their individuality. We should respect each other's individual rights, and I think that kind of honestly goes without saying.
Yeah, I'm really proud of Missoula to be, kind of the queer capital for the state. And, whenever the state and federal government are, trying to take away people's rights of the LGBTQ community, I think it's important that we as a local government do anything we can, like how we, skirted that state law with making the pride flag Missoula's flag. I think symbolic things like that are helpful in making statements as a government to stand up for LGBTQ plus community. But also I think, people that are queer in Missoula are facing a lot of the same issues as other people, and they also are being, experiencing homelessness at higher rates, or like having a hard time finding affordable housing, or so some of these issues that if we think about like the most vulnerable people in the community when we're making all these decisions, it'll overall help the LGBTQ community as well, who are going through some of those issues at higher rates. But overall, I'm really proud of Missoula, and I think a lot of this is just going to come from the community. We can't rely on the government to solve everything with standing up for each other.
Yeah, I just want to start by saying that I'm a proud supporter of the LGBTQ plus community, and I don't want to oversimplify things, but I firmly believe that people in general, but for sure cities and municipalities need to ensure that we're fostering an environment that's welcoming and supportive of all people, full stop. And that obviously includes members of our LGBTQ plus community. So I think Missoula does a lot of things really well, and I think we need to just continue to lean into that and make sure that everybody feels welcome and in an inclusive environment.
So I don't actually feel like it was a loaded question, because I think that whether you're supporting people of a certain religion, people who are members of the LGBTQ community, people who are straight, people, I'm sorry, I don't know the right word for that anymore, but it doesn't matter. We're all people. We're all citizens of Missoula. We're all part of this community, and every single one of us deserves the exact same representation. So my opinion as a city council person is you're there to listen to every person in your ward and to take their opinion into consideration with every single vote that you cast. And yeah, that I just don't believe in treating people differently based on the choices they've made or how they live their lives.
So yeah, as far as our Constitution already protects the rights of everyone. Those are basic fundamental human rights, and we have laws against hate crimes. And if we put more effort into focusing on enforcing the laws that were present, then this wouldn't necessarily be an issue. So as far as I support the military community, that makes up about 10% of our population here in Montana, depending on the statistic you look at. Some say 14%. As Montana as a state, we have about 47th ranking towards the bottom of the nation of percent of the LGBT community, and we have about 3% of our population there. So when we start focusing on laws specific to support that instead of enforcing the laws that already exist, I think that takes away our time and money from other things. I personally do not feel that we should be, I don't want to quote anybody here, but we should be opposing higher governments in order to establish laws to allow us to put the flag up. I think that that was something that was done by a very small group of individuals that did not necessarily represent the entirety of Missoula.
Okay, this is another 30-second question, hopefully easy. Recent Riverfront Triangle Agreement, good deal or bad deal?
It's complicated.
I think what a great opportunity for our community to have that area developed and to be a place that the public can use while balancing the needs of the growth of Missoula. And I think it's a great, I saw a car burning there one time. I would love to spend time on the river there. I think it's great to put funds into infrastructure that will really help make that place a great spot for our community to gather and to be together and to help revitalize that area of town.
Wow, that part of town has been for quite a long time now very blighted and very much a wasteland. I actually used to live on that side of the bridge until I moved over into Ward 3. Where I live now is right across the bridge from that development. So yeah, it's complicated, I agree. It's complicated in multiple ways. For me, I definitely don't look forward to the increased amount of traffic that I'm going to see through that Orange Street corridor. There's already the largest amount of emergency service vehicles traveling through there. There's already a high amount of traffic. My time's up, but there will be more traffic there. I don't look forward to that, but the opportunity for the community and the financial benefits it'll bring, obviously huge.
Yeah, I don't think we want to leave it vacant, but the city's planning on putting $14 million of tax increment financing towards helping redevelop it, and we are going to get, I think about $4 million back towards the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. So, that's a lot of public tax dollars going towards this, and I think we need to make sure that we're getting as much public benefit as we possibly can with this project. Luxury hotels is not necessarily what we need more of. I, would like to try and get more public benefit and see if we can work with the developer on, possibly other options as well.
I think this is a good deal. It's a good project. I'm excited for it. I think that is a great use of what is otherwise underutilized space. There, as Daniel mentioned, there's contributions coming back into the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. And, it's just going to revitalize that space. And I personally hope that that's a catalyst for more development along that Broadway corridor between Russell and Front. And it may be a hotel this time, but that's still an investment in our community. It's going to bring more tax dollars back into the community.
So I'm happy to see that area being developed. But yes, it's complicated. I'm not happy to see a hotel coming in. I think that we had the opportunity to turn that into some other great spaces and uses that our community could utilize that wasn't just another big hotel taking up our beautiful riverfront property. I think we could have used it for a higher purpose for our community.
Yeah, I agree. I think that this is a perfect example of where we would want to spend those TIF dollars in revitalizing or making better use of that area. But the more that we can focus on infill, the more we can focus on affordable housing, the better off we would be as a city, I think.
So this is what it feels like to answer last. I'll just echo what everybody else said, but the big thing, it is very complicated, and the only thing I am a little bit upset to see is that riverfront property is going to have a very, very tall building blocking all those beautiful views. But if it goes to something good, then I suppose it's all good in the end. But like I said, it's complicated.
Okay, we have two public questions about the same issue, and this is about public comment being moved to the end of meetings. So one says that it's reduced dramatically since it was moved to the end of the meetings, and the other just simply asks the question, would you vote to move public comment to the start of the meeting? Why or why not? Betsy.
Great. I will be honest in saying that I didn't follow the backstory as to why it was moved to the end of meetings. I do think that when meetings go till 10 o'clock, it is really difficult for people to make public comment at the end of long meetings. And so based on conversations to gather more information about why they were moved in the first place, I think that's a great place for me to start. But I think that more public comment and discussion is great, and so I'm in favor of anything that helps people have their voice be heard.
Sorry, 30, yeah. No, you're fine. I wasn't clear, I'm sorry.
Well, obviously, I want to hear more public comment. I mean, public comment is extremely valuable, but I could see how at sometimes it becomes difficult to conduct the city's business at the meeting when the public comment runs too long. But also, from Betsy, to add what Betsy said, it makes it very difficult to speak when you've had to sit through the entire meeting. Maybe there's a different way to look at that. Largely, I don't have any of the backstory to really make a very informed comment on that. But yeah.
You used to be able to show up to city council at 6 p.m. and say whatever you need to say to your local government. It's on the record, the people in power can hear you, and it was simple and easy. Since this change has been made, we've seen a huge reduction in public comment, and I think frankly, I think part of this is on purpose. People don't typically show up to these meetings to say, great job. They show up because they got concerns, they got things they want addressed. And, I think we should hear more of it, and we need to change this back to the beginning of the meeting so we can hear more public comment like we used to.
Good question. Full transparency, it's the first time I've ever heard about this, so I would welcome public comment to inform my decision on public comment. Honestly, don't know. I'm open to hearing more from both sides, so I reserve an answer until I could maybe find out a little bit more. Anything we do to stifle public comment to me seems like maybe something we want to reconsider, but I need to know more about this one, so sorry.
So I understand both sides. I understand why it was in the beginning and why engagement is much higher when we have it in the beginning. It's also easier to bring your children to teach them how to engage with their local government if it's earlier in the evening. Late at night, it's harder to keep your kids up. It's harder for other members of the public to stay that long or stay up and call in, whatever their situation may be, to engage. I personally am in favor of bringing it back to the beginning if those are our only two options, but I think that we may be able to explore earlier meetings if we have a hot topic, or breaking it up throughout the meeting based on what the topic of the comment is.
Yes, I've always been told that you want to engage your people where they're at, and in this case, it's when they're at also, if that makes sense. For those running for city council, I talked to one member that used to be on city council, is not anymore, and they left the city council because they couldn't commit the time necessary to be successful there, in their words. But I think that you have to be able to, as a city council member, commit that time, and that means having those public opinions brought in, that opening from the public talking to you, and you have to create that time for them. You can't just put it off till the end and hope they all go away.
I firmly believe that it should be at the beginning, only because, like everyone said, there's a lot of time restrictions. A lot of folks have kids that do not need to be at City Hall at 10 p.m. because a lot of them should be in bed. And I think that if anything that we can do that would increase engagement with voters and be able to hear them in person or on Zoom or however they communicate, we should be doing that. I mean, I would also be curious, though, as to why we moved it. I'm not entirely familiar as to why we did it, but that would be my course of action.
is my understanding. There's a convenience thing for city staff, but I agree that it's like that we, as public servants, that the populace should be at the behest of the people. It's like that, so therefore, like, because I was at a city council meeting and there was a kid there he wanted to do a presentation, and it was like 10:30 before he got it, and he's like, yeah, this is probably way past his bedtime. And as public servants, we should be prioritizing the convenience of the people rather than our own convenience.
Okay. Those hard questions are over. We're going to move on to some rapid fire if we're ready. We're going to pass out some clipboards, and we'll do a few questions here. Okay, so I'll ask the question, and you'll write your answer, and we'll reveal all at once and kind of just go down the line. So keep the microphones moving, please, and I can help here with Betsy. Okay, is everyone ready? First question, what single thing do we need more of in Missoula? Okay, everyone ready? We'll start here, Betsy.
Housing.
Time, or is that just me?
Public engagement and housing.
Affordable housing.
Housing.
Really affordable housing.
Housing.
Okay, great. All right, and then the next one, what do we need less of? Still writing, still writing. Okay, we'll start on the other end this time. Turn it around and you can shout it out.
Wildfire smoke.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Less criminalization of homelessness.
Unnecessary or unproductive regulations.
Free-for-alls. Multi-million-dollar projects.
Landlords. I totally didn't see that.
Smoky days. Okay, I love this one. What does the M stand for? Wrong answers only. I told my son once it stood for my name. He didn't believe me. Okay, we ready? Yeah? Okay, we'll start here.
Mom's rule.
Uh-huh. Lucas Moody, yeah.
You said wrong answers though, right?
Yeah, that's correct. Oh, Montucky.
University of Montana.
Morbidity.
Morbidity.
Sure, mountain.
More music.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry, I don't know.
Okay.
I completely ran out.
And let's go with last question. Best slice of pizza in town. Sorry, this is controversial. Ready?
Yeah, the bridge.
Bridge?
I wrote the potato bacon with honey on it.
Oh, wow.
Bridge.
Like Mackenzie River.
Chicago.
I also said pineapple.
Eat the and Biga. Okay. All right, guys. The pressure is over. We are done. We want to thank all of our candidates for being with us. Yeah, that is a hard question. Thank you for spending time tonight and helping our community get to know you all better. We really appreciate it. Thank you all for joining us too and for all the excellent questions. Want to just make sure to say that if you have moved or are unsure if you are registered to vote, please go check your voter registration. There's a website, app.mt.gov/voter-info. And if you need to register or to update your address, there is still time to do so. Thank you, everyone. Get home safely.